All right. Hey, everybody. Recording with Intention. Keith Gary here. Ribbon microphones 101. Ribbon microphones have had a great resurgence in the last 20 years. They were very popular in the 40s and 50s, like Elvis and Frank Sinatra would sing into an old RCA microphone. You've seen pictures of them. It's like a really classic look to them. When condensers came around, they weren't used for a while. But they were still well loved. The way they pick up high end, so the ribbon element inside the capsule, it's a tiny, very thin ribbon in an encasement. So it receives the sound waves in a completely different way from dynamics and condensers. It uses a ribbon element, and the way it picks up sound is it's notoriously smooth. It's very smooth, very warm. Um, it's a different sound. Ribbon microphones are very fragile, very sensitive to wind. You don't ever want to put a ribbon inside a kick drum to get that big blast of air. It can blow out the ribbon. You never ever want to send phantom power to a passive ribbon microphone. I'll circle back to that later. Vintage ribbons were all passive. They did not use phantom power. So if you plug a vintage ribbon microphone into a mic pre and it has phantom power on, it will blow up the ribbon. You don't want to ever move the ribbon around in the room while you're walking because it can stretch out the ribbon. So they're very sensitive. You want to take very good care of them. They're the most fragile of all the microphones. Now, also ribbons are 99% of ribbons are inherently bidirectional. They come in figure 8 pickup pattern, right? So they pick up from the front, they pick up from the back, and they reject around the sides. Just like some condensers can do when you put them in figure 8 or apply a figure 8 capsule. But most ribbons are inherently bidirectional. That's just in the design of the ribbon element. They also have a very low level output. Similar to dynamics, much lower than condensers. So in the old days, they would have to have the ribbon mic, and then the mic pre would be sitting next to the mic about 6 feet away, and then you would run line level into the console. So that's why ribbons kind of went away for a while, because condensers were a bit more durable. They weren't quite as fragile, and they gave you a hotter level. You could use a bunch of different kinds of pre's on them without getting weird artifacts. And so condensers and dynamics were used almost exclusively for a while there. And the ribbons really made a comeback when Royer came out with the first active ribbon microphone. And what that did was introduce phantom power into the circuit. So not only would the ribbon not blow up if you sent the Royer R122 phantom power, it needed it to operate. And it used it to enhance the level of the output. So it took the ribbon element and then put it in an electronic world that was way more friendly to all different kinds of mic pre's. So you had that smooth, warm ribbon sound without all the vintage finickiness of old ribbons. So, and again, always a well-maintained vintage model of these old microphones are really special. You just have to hear them to know. But there's beautiful new modern designs being made that aren't in the thousands of dollars range here. You can get great sounds with not extremely expensive microphones these days, thanks to machined parts and computers and automated processes. Everything doesn't have to be hand built anymore, so you can make them for less, and you can get good stuff for less. So always just put a mic up and listen to it, and use your ear, and then do blind test yourself, see what you really like, and then build your sonic vocabulary that way. I love to use ribbons on a variety of sources. They can be really wonderful on acoustic guitar. Often I blend them with a condenser. It's often a choice between, do I use ribbons or do I use condensers on acoustic guitar? And I'm getting better at making that decision. For instance, if you're recording a live acoustic guitar vocal and you have a nice condenser on the vocal, the condenser sound of the guitar will be there on the vocal mic. right? You'll have more vocal than guitar, but you will have this right down the middle mono phase coherent condenser sound of the acoustic guitar on the vocal mic, which is a good thing. I like it. And then with ribbons that are rejecting, using the null point to reject the vocal in a stereo pattern around the guitar, can give me this really nice warm stereo image of the guitar that comes up to surround that blend of guitar, vocal, and the condenser. So that's often my go-to, is a really nice tube, large tube condenser on the vocal, and then a pair of ribbons on the guitar. But that changes. You know, it depends on how they're playing. Are they using a pick? Is it loud? Is it soft? All of that informs the decisions that you make as an engineer about what mics to put up. But the more you try different scenarios, the more tools you'll have in your handbag to pull out when you know what you want to hear. The other thing I really love about ribbon microphones is they don't get mechanical noise. So think of the keys clicking on a flute. Think of the keys clicking on a saxophone. Think of the sound that the piano dampers make when you lift the sustain pedal. That condensers almost magnify that stuff. Not only do they pick up the clicks and the mechanical noise, but it's like they put a spotlight on it. Ribbons seem to grab the fundamental in a really smooth way, and they don't get all that extraneous noise. And what they do get doesn't bother you. Nothing bothers me more than clicking condenser noises. They totally take me out of the music and distract me sonically. So if you are recording something that has, you know, a lot of squeaks, mechanical noises of any kind, a ribbon might be a really good place to start. So it'll give you a really warm, smooth sound without all that extraneous clicky garbage. So that's ribbon mics. Very fragile to wind, very fragile to phantom power unless they're active. Bidirectional, very smooth high-end response. Low level output, again, unless they're active. There are specialized mic pre's made just for ribbon microphones, something to try. And they really tame mechanical noise. If they're great on vocals, if it's the right vocal, try it. Crooning, smooth, kind of Frank Sinatra style vocals, it can give you a vintage feel. But you just have to try it. I tend to like condensers on vocals, but you know, I'm always open to try new things. All right, so that's Ribbon Microphones 101. Keith Gary, recording with intention. Be back soon.